Hi, I've made a Unity asset called the QuickSet Object Placer. It's an object painting and a snapping utility, and I'm going to show you how it works. The first thing you need to do is add the QuickSet object to your scene. Go to Window, QuickSet, then add it in. Object Placer works by casting rays from the mouse position against the colliders in your scene. It uses the returned hit points to place game objects, and it uses a layer mask to determine which colliders to test against. Right now the layer mask is set to nothing, and that won't work, so I'm going to set it to everything. If you don't want to test against all the colliders, you can remove the layers here. Now I'm going to add an object group. This will just be a collection of game objects. I'm going to call this one cubes. Now I'll lock the inspector and I'll just drag in some cube prefabs to this area here. I'm going to add another group. Call this one Boot Camp. I took some assets from the Boot Camp demo. I don't want these cubes, so let's remove those. And do the same thing, just drag them to the rectangular area. Okay. I don't want the inspector locked anymore, so I'm going to unlock it. Now I have everything set up and I'm ready to go. All I need to do is select a game object, hit Start Object Painting. Now I can place objects in the scene. Right now you'll see that the cubes have been placed at the top level in the hierarchy. Since I don't want this, let's get rid of these guys. And I'm going to add a new game object. I'll call this cubes parent. Then I can assign it to the cubes group by dragging it to this field. Now when I place game objects in the scene, they'll be the children of the parent. This is really the core of what this tool is about. It gives you a quick and easy way to place game objects in your scene. Now let's go through some of the more advanced features. I'm going to place a green cube here. Now let's say we wanted to adjust its position and scale. One thing you can do is open up this last game object foldout and change these values to whatever you want. I'm going to scale it a little bit. I'm going to move it up. Then I hit Apply Changes, and it's been scaled and moved up. If you hit Shift F, the last game object you placed in the scene will be selected. So let's place a blue cube here. Now I'm going to hit Shift F, and it's been selected. So that's a quick way to select the game object to move it around. A lot of the time you might want to bring game objects in with a different rotation or maybe offset from the target point. So let's show you that. I'm going to place a barrel here. Let's place a barrel. And you'll see that it's on its side and it's in the ground. So let's fix that. I'm going to open up the offset, rotation, and scale foldout. First thing is let's modify the rotation. Now it's coming in right side up, but it's in the ground. So I'm going to also change this offset. I'm going to have it come in half a unit higher. Now I place the barrel, and it's exactly where I want. So let's go through some of the grid and snapping options. If I open up the grid foldout, you'll see a bunch of options for drawing a customizable grid. I can draw any one of the planes or all three at the same time. I can change the unit size and how many units are actually going to be drawn in the world. Let's change those back. for now, I'm just going to draw the XZ plane. Let's go to an orthographic view. Now what I want to do is I want to snap to these grid points. So let's open up the snapping. Let's snap the X and the Z positions. Pick a cube. Start painting. Now when I place them, now I can just place things on the grid. It's pretty useful. Sometimes you might want to automatically set a coordinate. This is especially useful in 2D, where you might want to snap the X and the Y coordinates while automatically setting the Z coordinate. So let's do that. Let's draw the XY plane. Turn off the other plane. I'm going to snap X, I'm going to snap Y, but I'm not going to snap Z. Instead, I'm going to automatically set the Z coordinate. For now, I'll uncheck this grid space option. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. And now, let's place a cube snapped with its Z position automatically set to 0. And you'll see that the Z position is automatically set. If I change this value, if I change it to 3, the cubes will be placed behind these ones. So let's do that. See? Now they've been placed behind these ones. Now let's explain this grid space option. Now the grid can be arbitrarily placed or rotated in your scene. So I'm gonna move the grid back a little bit. I'm gonna set it back to, let's say, -4. Now I'm gonna turn on the grid space option. I'm gonna set this to 0. Now since grid space is checked, if I place some cubes, they'll be placed in front of these other two groups. That's because 0 in grid space is now -4 in world space. Another thing I can do is just arbitrarily rotate the grid. So let's rotate it about the z-axis. Let's say 30 degrees. This is a little bit weird, but I can still snap to these grid points. So if I start painting, you'll see I can place objects on a diagonal. If I want to, I can align. I can set the rotation of the game objects to match that of the grid. So let's do that. Let's go to 30. Now I can paint on the grid. I need to line up the grid a little bit. See, now I'm completely aligned with the grid. Okay, so that's how you paint on the grid. Let's show you how you can actually snap game objects that are already in your scene. First, I'm going to reset my grid back to the defaults. I'm going to stop painting. And I'm going to go to the window, quick set. Now I'm going to add the quick set snapping window. This is an editor window. I'm going to dock it down here. And it works a lot like Unity's default snapping. So let's pick a game object here. Let's move it. Now I can hit snap X, it will snap its X coordinate, snap Y, it will snap its Y. I can hit snap all, and all get snapped. And if I turn on snapping, any game object that I drag in this scene will automatically be snapped to the grid. So let's do that. I'll just grab this guy. As I move him around, you can see he's jumping to the grid. The snapping window is tied to the grid, so if you move the grid or rotate it or change the unit size, game objects will snap accordingly. And that's about it for the Quickset Object Placer. It's the kind of tool that just about everybody needs. So I hope you find it useful, and thanks for watching.